This video is sponsored by Best No Copyright Music. I'm often asked where I get the music from for my videos. The answer used to be a whole bunch of places, but now I get it all from one place. It's Best No Copyright Music, whether you just want to listen to some good tunes or you want music for your own content. Best collection of Best No Copyright and royalty-free music on the web, on YouTube. Best No Copyright Music. Link to their channel in the description. Hey, what is up everybody? Just thought I'd give you some quick and dirty advice here on a question that iPhone users still seem to struggle with every single year, and that is whether or not to get the regular Pro model or the Pro Max model. What I have here is a 13 Pro and a 13 Pro Max, and I'm going to skip over certain details and intricacies that you may not care about, and what I did is sort of collided and collected the most important information from the question of whether or not to get the 13 Pro or 13 Pro Max. So let's start with what is the same between these two devices, and that list would include the build and the design, exactly the same. You've got the ceramic shield on the back, stainless steel chassis. You have the same storage options. It starts at 128 gigabytes and goes up to 1 terabyte. You've got the same color options. You've got gold, you've got the silver here, you have a graphite, which by the way is slightly darker than the 12 Pro's graphite. You have that alpine green, and you have Sierra blue. You also have the exact same display. Now the pixels per inch may be a little bit different because this is different size phones, but you're not going to care about that. It is a fantastic quality display on both. They have the same software features. You're not going to be missing anything if you go with the Pro over the Pro Max, for example. By the way, I'm not trying to lead you in any direction. I'm trying to give you all the information that you're going to need to make this decision, and you go with what's best for you, obviously. You also have the same processing power, the A15 Bionic chip on each of these. You have the same IP68 dust and water resistance. I believe that's for 6 meters for up to 30 minutes. Don't quote me on that, but it's the same IP68 dust and water resistance, so there's no difference there. You're also getting the exact same camera hardware, unlike with some previous years where there was some extras thrown in to the Pro Max. No, the hardware is exactly the same. You've got fantastic photo quality, industry-leading video quality on each of these devices. So quickly now, what is different? Well, the price, the starting price is a little bit different. Of course, Pro Max will be slightly more expensive. On average, it just starts about $100 more for the equivalent storage option. And then you've got the obvious difference here, which is the size. Now, if you're somebody that absolutely loves to one-hand everything on your phone, and that's typically me, and I kind of tend to use the phones without a case as well. I like to be able to do almost everything one-handed. So in that regard, I kind of prefer the Pro, but there are sometimes I prefer the Pro Max, specifically on the iPhone, whereas I would pick more of a mid-size option on a Galaxy, for example, and I'll get into why that is. But if you're somebody that uses two hands all the time anyway, let's say your hands are smaller, and you tend to find yourself using two hands on a regular Pro or regular sized iPhone anyway, and you're debating this decision, I mean, honestly, I would just go with the Pro Max because I'm using two hands anyway. Might as well take advantage of the better battery life, and might as well take advantage of the bigger display. So if you know you want to one-hand everything, honestly, it's the choice I think is a little bit obvious, even if you've been thinking about and dabbling with the idea of going with the Pro Max. I think even though you'll kind of visually get used to it, you're gonna kind of miss the smaller size of the 13 Pro if that one-hand ability is something that's very important to you. Another difference is that the Pro Max, of course, is a little bit heavier. Now, these are heavy phones in general, so even if you go with the 13 Pro, this is a heavier phone than most. For me, that wouldn't be a big consideration, but I've seen people mention it, so just keep in mind that this is going to be a little bit heavier, but they both feel, to me, pretty good in the hand. I mean, you feel like you've got a robust, very well-built piece of machinery. If you're holding it for very, very long spells, I don't know, your wrist might get a little bit sore, especially with the Pro Max, but with the Pro Max anyway, you're probably not one-handing much. So it's not like one wrist or one hand is gonna get a little bit sore if you're kind of scrolling through all day long. As I just mentioned, the battery life. Now, the iPhone 13 Pro has fantastic battery life. If you just care about getting through your day, you're a medium to maybe heavy user, but you know, you use your phone a good deal and you just want to get through the day, chances are you're going to be able to do that with the regular 13 Pro. Again, very good battery life here. And if you're a very light user, you could even get 2 days out of it. But if battery life is extremely important to you, you're a very heavy user, or you do not have access to a charger most times, then I think the Pro Max is going to be for you, because the battery life on this is just absolutely phenomenal. Honestly, the best I've seen on any smartphone. And for most people, that's not a huge deal. We have access to chargers, wireless chargers, battery packs, etc. So if you like a phone that's doing a lot at any given time, for example, on a Galaxy with the always on display, then you don't care as much about battery life, because you can, you'll probably just need to get through the day, and you will have access to charging either way. So again, if you work outdoors somewhere, you just do not have access to charging most of the day, and you are going to be using your phone quite a bit, this is the one for you. If you go camping a lot or something and you don't bring a battery pack, or you're hiking, whatever, in the wilderness, I don't know what you do with your time, but again, if you really need great battery life, then this is the one to choose. If you just care about really good, really solid battery life, and you just need to get through your day, the 13 Pro is sufficient, so you wouldn't let that make the decision for you. Next thing to discuss is clothing. Now, most of the time in, I'll say, shorts and most slacks, it's not going to make much of a difference as long as you don't have an unreasonably sized case on any of these. These will fit in your pocket. But I know skinny jeans are a thing. This is going to be difficult. This is going to be a little bit difficult with skinny jeans. Not only is it going to protrude, which is not necessarily the problem, but when you sit down and your thighs kind of sneak up, you don't want this thing to sneak out of your pocket and fall. It's also going to look and feel quite cumbersome in the pockets of skinny jeans. This phone, obviously not as much. So if that's a concern to you, if you wear skinny jeans a lot, you got to also consider you're probably putting a case on this thing. I don't think the Pro Max is the one for you, honestly. For me personally, I prefer maybe slim jeans, a bit tapered on the bottom, and this hasn't been an issue for me. Of course, I feel the phone when it's the Pro Max, and it's a little bit big. It does protrude from the top, but I don't feel like it's about to fall. And I also don't feel terribly uncomfortable. Obviously, this one is a little bit more pocketable. But for me, the whole pocketability is not as much of an issue. You know best if it would be an issue for you or not. I'm telling you, with skinny jeans, this is a little bit of an issue. And it might not be an issue for everybody, and some people might get used to it. So if that's you, please do mention it in the comments, because you're going to be helping somebody out. If you do wear skinny jeans and you have a Pro Max and it's not an issue, yeah, elaborate on that for us. The next thing to consider is what kind of case, if any at all, you're going to be using with this thing. Like I said, sometimes I like to go caseless, but even if I do have a case on, I don't want it to be something too cumbersome, not something with a terribly high amount of protection. So I think the thickest type of case I would typically put on a phone is maybe the leather case. So that's not going to impact matters too much. If you are going to be putting a super protective case on these, like an OtterBox, for example, oh man, that's going to make this thing an absolute behemoth, and you may not mind that. For me personally, if I'm choosing between these two and I'm not sure, and I know I'm putting an OtterBox case, for example, on one of these, I'm not going with the Pro Max. It's just going to make this way too massive and cumbersome. You're basically carrying around an iPad mini at that point. So if you're going to be using a massive case, or just a really rugged protective case, personally I would stick to the smaller phone. And this last issue here, this last factor to consider, is a little bit niche, a little specific to Galaxy users or Android users, if you're switching at all, and that is the fact that touch is registered on the iPhone. You need to be a lot more precise in order to get that touch registered. I say a lot more. It's all relative, of course, but like if you're touching some kind of button or a text link or whatever on a Galaxy, for example, if you're anywhere near it, it knows what you're trying to touch and it'll register the touch. But on the iPhone, again, you have to be really specific, really precise with that button or that text that you are tapping. So I found that it was a little bit annoying on the smaller iPhone Pro, where it was a lot more comfortable on the Pro Max coming from a Galaxy. Now, at the same time, since the Galaxy is a little bit more, I guess, friendly or forgiving with where you're touching the phone, I would not get the Ultra. I would not get the biggest Galaxy, for example. I am completely cool with the S22 Plus, for example. But on an iPhone, because of that, I guess, issue, for lack of a better term, I think I would prefer the Pro Max the typing and more accurate touches. Because again, it's just different for some reason on iOS versus Android. You just have to be more precise with the touches on the iPhone. So that's something to consider. And as always, if you can get to a store and play with these for a little bit before you make your purchase, do that. But I think it's good to watch a video like this or other videos online comparing these so that you know what you're going to be looking for and trying to notice when you do play with these at a store. Another piece of advice maybe to just help you decide is to go through this video and maybe give a point each to each phone depending on what your preference is with each item that I went through. And maybe you can weight them differently. If something is more important than the other, then maybe that gets an extra point or something. Then perhaps tally them up at the end and make your decision. In the end, it's not life-changing. You can also exchange your phone. You're going to be upgrading at some point, so don't agonize too much. But I think these were the most prominent and popular factors to consider. So I hope that helped you, everybody. As you know, there will always be a bunch of Galaxy and iPhone and other tech coverage here. And if you enjoy that sort of thing, subscribe to be the first to know when those videos drop. Take care, everybody, and stay safe. I'll see you in the next one.